I'm Paula Gwen Grant for the Atlanta Regional Commission, and I'm here with Dan Reuter, the Chief of Atlanta Regional Commission's Land Use Division. And today we're here to talk specifically about housing. Dan, good to speak with you.
Good morning.
So what are some of the major challenges when it comes to housing in the Atlanta region?
Well, the Atlanta region has been fortunate in the past to be a more affordable place to live than many areas of the United States. In recent years, that's begun to change, and really our issues are issues of choices for housing and cost.
Right.
As our demographics change, as citizens live longer, maybe after their kids have left the home, as individuals decide to wait longer to have children, we have different sorts of housing needs that aren't just a single family home. And a lot of our construction that exists in the Atlanta region is single family homes. And as the costs have gotten escalated towards where a lot of the jobs are, it's pushed people further and further out to find a house that they can afford.
And that is the challenge, right? Getting the housing near where people work, right?
Absolutely.
And that's something that seems to be, the real situation for every city, and Atlanta is coping with that. How is the ARC helping to create those housing opportunities near the jobs that people need?
Right. The Atlanta Regional Commission doesn't build housing.
Right.
And we're again fortunate in the Atlanta region to have a large and very productive private sector. We have nonprofit builders who build housing, but they can't do it on their own. Local governments provide incentives, and local governments provide the regulatory atmosphere for construction to occur. And so it really takes a public and private partnership together to build the housing that we need.
And one of the major public initiatives is the Beltline, and there are numerous others that are trying to use something called inclusionary zoning or inclusionary housing codes. Is that one of the methods that we're trying to pull to the discussion table and then into action when we try to create housing opportunities?
It is. Inclusionary zoning has been used in some states very successfully. It's sort of a new concept in Metro Atlanta, but it seeks to just, when you build housing, market rate housing, to try to put in some percentage of that housing as workforce housing or housing for individuals that aren't able to afford the more expensive homes. So it sort of tries to have a percentage of all that the housing that's built be more affordable.
And does that work for the private sector? We're trying to involve the private sector with government. Does that math work to make that happen?
Well, the private sector, they're in business to build homes and to make a profit. And so, yes, I think it requires close coordination and really respecting that is their business to build housing and try to make it an incentive-based program for them to build the housing that communities need.
And so that's the challenge, trying to get the private sector to work with counties and cities. How do you at the ARC try to facilitate that discussion that will result into the reality of real, tangible housing outcomes for families to consider?
Well, Atlanta Regional Commission has a lot of contact with local governments who we serve. We also partner with many organizations in Metro Atlanta, such as the Atlanta Neighborhood Development Partnership or Progressive Redevelopment, organizations that are seeking to help build more housing opportunities. And so we try to just provide resources, and we provide a quarterly regional housing forum. We've written ordinances and other things to try to help communities build the housing they need.
And in fact, ANDP, the Atlanta Neighborhood Development Partnership, is about to issue a report that's going to talk about housing deficits, and they're proposing some activities we should really get involved in trying to address the housing concerns in Metro Atlanta. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. ANDP has been funded for the past few years by the Ford Foundation to do a lot of work analyzing where our housing deficits are located. As you know, we have many jobs in the Atlanta region, and often the housing is not in place near where jobs are located. And so that ends up creating more traffic congestion for individuals who are seeking to live and work in different areas. And so really studying those issues and trying to identify where the housing needs would help us most with our traffic is one issue.
And that's so true, because there is truly a relationship between the location of jobs and housing and traffic congestion, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's something people don't always really tie together in their thinking, but it's the absolute truth. Can you sort of explain that, how it really does work in tandem when you see high traffic in certain parts of town?
Absolutely. Well, we do have communities in Metro Atlanta that have many more jobs than they have housing, and then we have more bedroom communities that have a lot of the housing. And that's occurred because it's just many times too expensive to live in certain areas, or again, the choices that are available are not conducive to a family or an individual who doesn't need a large home. They might not have the ability to have a smaller unit or in an area that's walkable or close to transit. That opportunities, enough of those are not available.
That's truly, and you always have to consider the underserved, like senior citizens, when you talk
Right.
about housing. What are some of the most important activities that you have going on at the ARC to address the underserved population?
Absolutely. I think when we use the term housing, we think of some sort of program that's addressing one need. But really, housing is something that everyone needs, from a family to a senior citizen. And in the Atlanta Regional Commission, we're also the area agency on aging. And our aging division has done a lot of work with counties such as Cobb County, where they've adopted a senior housing ordinance to really encourage more housing for seniors. We are aging. The baby boomers are aging, and we will have many more senior citizens, and they will live much longer in the future. So that's a big need in our region.
Dan Reuter, thank you very much. If you would like more information about housing issues in the Atlanta area, or perhaps you'd like to participate in a housing forum, visit us at www.atlantaregional.com.